Okay, so in this presentation today, we'll cover the 3 lines of defence: rejection of transplanted organs, immune system disorders, acquired immunity, immune response to vaccination, benefits of vaccination, and herd immunity. Okay, so what is human immunity? Immunity is the body's ability to prevent the invasion of pathogens. And pathogens are foreign disease-causing substances such as bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Okay, so the first line of defence includes physical and chemical barriers that defend the body from infection. Our skin is the largest organ of the body and the most obvious physical barrier to infection. The epidermis provides a waterproof mechanical barrier between pathogens and the body. However, when the skin is broken, like a graze or a cut, microorganisms can enter through the skin, causing risk of infection. When this happens, the second line of defence becomes active. Mucous membranes line the surface of the eyes, ears, nose, sinus, mouth, and throat. This substance separates and acts as a barrier from the external environment while still allowing nutrients to enter. Mucous membranes are coated with secretions that fight microorganisms and form a defence against infection. The nose is protected by mucous membranes that line the walls of the nose, so any microorganisms entering the nose gets trapped in the mucous lining. Okay, so then next we go into the second line of defence. The second line of defence is our immune system, which is made up of a group of cells, tissues and organs that work together to protect the body. Inflammation is a response to the skin injury or infection. Tissues in the infected area become red and warm to touch due to the blood reaching the infected area. The tissues can become swollen as the proteins are attracted to the infection and pus excreted due to the immune system fighting the infection. When the body experiences an infection, monocytes leave the bloodstream and enter the infected area, undergoing a series of changes to become macrophages. So macrophages are specialised cells that recognise and destroy pathogens. They're formed in a response to an infection or damaged cells. They can be found in different parts of the body, such as the brain and the liver. It is a type of cell known as a phagocyte that detect and destroy the pathogens. The term used to describe the engulfing and destroying of damaged, defective, or invasive cells is called phagocytosis. The first cells to arrive at the infected area are usually neutrophils. Neutrophils are white blood cells that move through blood vessels to the site of inflammation, known as chemotaxis. They engulf the invading organism and release cytokine, which attract more immune cells to the infected area. Okay, so cytokines. So cytokines are small proteins which are produced and enhance the immune response by signalling and mediating inflammation and immunity. Complement proteins are a group of proteins, including cytokines, that travel in the blood in an inactive form. The presence of a pathogen can activate them with another protein to form a cascade of reactions. This attracts phagocytes to remove foreign particles, causing inflammation, which attracts more phagocytes to the infected area. This produces proteins that attack the cell membrane of the invading organism. Okay, so the next is the third line of defence, and this is a specific resistance. This system relies on antigens, which are parts of the pathogen that tell our body it's being attacked. They cause the immune response in the body. An example of an antigen are the proteins on a virus, such as influenza, that help the virus to enter the cell. Acquired immunity is an immunity that you develop over your lifetime. It's learned through the response from the body's immune system that attacks each antigen. It can come from a vaccine, previous exposure to the infection or disease, and another person's antibodies. When pathogens are introduced to the body from a vaccine or a disease, your body learns to target those germs in the future by making new antibodies. The cells of the acquired immune system are lymphocytes. There are 2 types of cells, T cells and B cells, each with a specific role in the immune system. So T cells are the most common type of cell, and they grow in the thymus gland, and there are 3 types of T cell. So you've got cytotoxic T cells, which defend the body against viruses. They reject tissue grafts and form the immune response to certain tumours. Suppressor T cells are capable of suppressing the functions of both the helper and cytotoxic cells, protecting against autoimmune attack. Helper T cells help control another part of the immune system by stimulating other types of T cells to grow and attack. All of these T cells play a role in destroying the problem cells within the body, such as infected cells or damaged cells like some forms of cancer. Okay, so B cells, they play two major roles within the immune response: antibody production and presenting antigens to the T cells, providing signals for T cell activation. They mature in the bone marrow when activated, release huge amounts of antibodies. Plasma cells are B cells that produce and secrete a single antibody type. Immunity is maintained as long as plasma cells continue to secrete antibodies. Memory B cells can migrate to the lymph nodes and remain there ready until a specific antigen enters the immune system again. Okay, so immunoglobulins. These are antibodies that are bound to antigens and have many uses within the body, such as targeting infection, recruitment of immune cells, neutralization of toxins, removal of antigens, complement activation, stimulation of cells that can eat foreign substances, and activation of mast cells. Immunoglobulins are structured in a Y shape and have two heavy chains and two light chains, as seen on screen. And there are several types of immunoglobulins. G is the most abundant and can be transferred through the placenta from the mother to the fetus, providing children with some protection from diseases. A is the second most abundant and plays an important role in the cellular defense of the mucosal surfaces of the body. M has a different structure than the others and is the first immunoglobulin synthesized in an antibody. E is the largest of the molecules and only present in low levels in a healthy person, which can increase in response to a parasitic infection or allergic reaction. D is the most uncommon of them all, which functions as an antigen receptor on the surface of B cells. So antigens within the immune system allow our body to recognise the difference between self and non-self, and only allowing the non-self to be attacked. When the immune system comes into contact with a self-antigen, for example a red blood cell, the body will not attack as it is recognised as self. However, when a foreign antigen is presented to the immune system, the B and T cells will respond accordingly. This is dependent on how different the foreign antigen is to the self-antigen. Hypersensitivity is when there is an overreaction of the immune system to an antigen which would not normally trigger a response in other humans, for example an allergy to peanuts. Hypersensitivity diseases can be grouped into four categories. So we've got immediate type 1, antibody mediated type 2, immune complex mediated type 3, and cell mediated type 4. People who have autoimmune disorder, their immune system does not distinguish between healthy tissues and harmful antigens. So the body sets off a reaction that destroys normal tissues, such as rheumatoid arthritis. This can affect people of any age, including young children. It is a condition where the immune system usually protects us from infections, starts to attack the joints, causing pain, stiffness and swelling. It can be managed by medication and steroids that are designed to stop the immune system damaging the joints. Lupus is a long-term condition that causes joint pain, skin rashes and tiredness. Symptoms can include inflammation of the lungs, heart, liver, joints and kidneys. Anti-inflammatory medicines are used to treat lupus. It is thought that a combination of genetic and environmental factors are responsible for triggering these diseases. So rejection of transplanted organs. Transplantation is the relocation of cells, tissues or organs from one site to another, either within the same person or by a donor. Some organ transplantation fail due to the immune system identifying it as a foreign body, therefore triggering a response to attack the transplanted organ or tissue. Donors are carefully matched prior to the transplantation, so there is less risk of this rejection. There are three types of rejection: hyperacute, where the transplant will reject straight away; acute, which can happen anywhere from 1 week to 3 months after the transplant; and chronic rejection, so this can happen over many years where the body slowly damages the organ or tissue over time. Okay, so we have categories of acquired immunity. So first of all is natural active immunity. This develops from being exposed to the pathogen that caused that specific disease. The T cells in the bloodstream will attach to the pathogen and present the pathogen to the B cells. The B cells will create the antibody to kill the pathogen. resulting in the antibody made providing long-term immunity if that pathogen is presented in the body again, for example, chickenpox. Next, we have artificially induced active immunity. This is when a person is intentionally exposed to foreign antigens, such as a vaccination, causing the immune system to produce antibodies and memory cells, enabling the body to protect itself from the pathogen in the future. Next is passive natural immunity. In this process, antibodies are passed from person to person, such as mother and her child through the placenta when pregnant or through breastfeeding. This will only provide temporary protection as the antibodies will eventually die. Next is artificially induced passive immunity. This is when protection is given via an injection or transfusion through someone who already has the antibodies, which reduces the infection, but again is only temporary as the antibodies eventually die. Okay, so immunological memory is when the immune system responds to a pathogen that it has previously come into contact with, but in a quicker and more effective way than the first time. Immunological memory is produced by receiving a vaccination of a specific disease without any of the harmful side effects. The immune system recognises the infectious pathogen, allowing the B cells to attack, therefore protecting the body. It is clear that having vaccinations for specific diseases has a positive outcome on society, as seen with the success of the MMR vaccination in 1940. Since the MMR vaccine was introduced in the UK in 1968, Public Health England estimated that 4,500 deaths have been avoided. The number of cases has fallen since 2013, but still higher than they were in the late 1990s. In 2018, there are 4 times as many cases in the UK than they were in 2017. This is due to people not getting the vaccination, particularly in children over 15 who missed out on the MMR vaccine. So a few benefits of vaccinations are eradication and elimination of the disease, prevention of infection, control of mortality and morbidity, and extending life expectancy. Okay, so what is herd immunity? So herd immunity is the indirect protection from a contagious disease that happens when a population is immune either through vaccination or having previously had the infection before. This means that those who have not been vaccinated have some sort of level of protection because of the decrease in the number of cases spreading from person to person. Once herd immunity has been established for a while, eventually the ability to spread the disease is hindered, resulting in the disease being eliminated. For example, smallpox. Okay, so vaccination programs are a way of reducing the spread of the infectious disease. The NHS have vaccination programs to vaccinate certain vulnerable adult groups, such as the disabled and elderly, against specific diseases. They have made it much more available to the public by allowing local pharmacies to distribute the vaccine as well. Many vaccination programs exist for children, such as the routine MMR vaccine as a baby by the health visitor, although this is at the discretion of the mother. Not everyone is able to have vaccinations due to medical reasons, as well as some people are not willing to have the vaccine as they believe it will do more harm than good. For example, the claim that the MMR vaccine caused autism, although this has since been proved not true. Okay, so to summarise this presentation, we've covered the first and second line of defence. The third line of defence, acquired immunity, adaptive and specific, self-recognition and tolerance and immune system disorders, categories of acquired immunity, the immune response to vaccinations, and herd immunity, vaccination programs and factors affecting vaccines. I'm Hannah Biggle and thank you for watching.